It's the COVID crew.
It's the COVID crew.
Joe Sway
After
also.
a COVID-like performance by the Celtics.
Yeah.
Coughed it up all over the place out there.
Exactly. We're here. We're banged up. We're doing better than the Celtics are.
We are. Don't worry about us. Worry about the Celtics.
This is the type of game that makes you question your life, right?
Totally. Well, one of the many moments.
Right. Why do I do
this?
this? Like, why do I watch this? Why do I talk about it? Why do I subject myself to this? Like, why does this occupy any of my time?
Right.
Yeah, wretched game.
I don't let them hurt me anymore though. And if you're watching and you're still hurt by this team, this is the game. This is one of the games that you say, you know what? I'm not going to let them hurt me anymore. I'm not going to allow it to affect my mental state because it's just going to.
People in here in the chat asking about your physical state, Jimmy. How are you feeling?
My physical state, I'm good. Like I said, don't worry about me. I think the other guys in this video are a little more banged up than I am at this point. I've made my recovery, I think, and I will be heading back out into the world. I have been out into the world, but I haven't been interacting with anybody. But I think I might do that.
Unleash the Jimmy on people New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it's been a nice little break for the world, I think.
Yeah. And Bobby?
I'll tell you what, I was better 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
This game was a little bit of a setback for me. But I'm not going to let them break me.
Yeah, you see people who don't watch these games regularly tuning in too, like, oh geez, the Bruins are off still, the Patriots are winding down, and people are starting to tune in here, and they're like, what am I watching?
The Titletown was a long time ago.
The ratings tell a different story, by the way, in terms of what people are tuning into, because it's not the Celtics.
No, but the people who do are tuning in and then immediately tuning out. Because I get like casual fans, like my friends of your guys', I'm sure too. Like they'll text you, be like, "Wow, what the hell is wrong with this team?" I'm like, "Dude, how much time do you have? Like, I don't think you want me to answer this question for you right now." But they're not holding interest with the likability. It's a likability factor. There's a lot of reasons why fans aren't holding on. Is this my goofy hat? I just tossed this on right before we hit the airway so that I can hide if I really am upset by the way the conversation goes.
No, it's this. Watching the Celtics is not for casuals right now. You know, those guys those guys who are like, I like the Patriots.
It's a war.
And then like, I'll watch whatever team is doing well. Those guys are gone. You know, like. Totally. Right now, it's just diehards and masochists. You know, that's all that's left.
People who enjoy pain are like, right. I got something tonight. I got to do. Sorry, guys, I can't hang out. I have somewhere to be at 7:30.
So, Bobby, in a dark room. Bobby, help me make this show bit longer than 5 minutes. You know, because
that's okay. Actually, I'll do 5 minutes.
No, because right now it's like. They sucked at shooting threes, womp womp, and then just.
Let's just get that out of the way. Like obviously, and Bobby, I'll let you speak. Although I know that you're choosing your words wisely because you're, I think, the worst off of all of us. But they missed so many 3-pointers tonight that it was actually comical. Like if you were watching this game, I guarantee you were just laughing at every miss.
They were afraid to shoot. When they
were just like, do I have to? All right.
They were getting long rebounds. People would pass to someone and be like, I'm open and I'm supposed to shoot, but I really don't want to miss another one. And then they would pass it to the next guy, and he's like, I guess I have to shoot.
Horford would be like, really, guys? Like, have you seen the first 6? Like, come on, don't make me shoot this.
Yeah, they got drew into it by that zone. They were just firing away from out there. They were getting rebounds and looking for those again and again, and they really didn't adjust all that much. And listen, Jaylen Brown had a lot more ability to attack. We saw it down the stretch there. He went in the lane against multiple bodies. We've seen him do it throughout the year. He's capable of challenging a mass of guys in there, and the spacing wasn't great around him, certainly. It made it difficult to do it, but it's going to be difficult, especially with Tatum out and different guys out right now, to score and generate offense. And we're seeing right now that he and Peyton Pritchard really aren't enough in that regard. Like, they are not efficiently running this offense, finding quality looks time in and again.
You mean the guy who was a DNP-CD for the first 25 games of the year is not doing a good job running the offense alongside?
Yeah, right.
These guys don't have it right now.
Weird.
And you just look at the
Forever.
percentages right now.
We have to eliminate the right now from our thinking. This is, I think, Celtics fans' problems. We keep saying,
Well, that's all they got. What are they
keep
going to
saying-
do?
No, but we keep saying they didn't have it tonight, or this
Yeah,
wasn't the
yeah.
right combo.
We've seen moments
There
from Brown
might
and
not
Pritchard
be a
over the
right
last couple
combo.
weeks,
There
yeah.
may not be another day that's better. You know,
Right.
there's just it is. It
Well,
is
listen,
what
there aren't
it
going
is.
to be
That's why, like,
days like this.
That's like the little bit of denial in you, Bobby, is showing, I think. A little bit
But
of
let me,
denial.
Bobby, all I'll say is this: this isn't against you.
Well,
I mean,
is just, I mean, what do you expect in a game like this? I mean, you don't see this game ever. I mean, there's been one game like this I can find.
I know, but let's look. While this is clearly an outlier performance because it's the worst ever, and shooting 10% is ridiculous. 9%, whatever.
That ties the NBA record. Okay, I didn't even realize
So
that.
historically bad, obviously, is a okay. What the? But people are talking about, oh God, this was a crazy night with all those missed threes. Like it was something that happened, like stuff was falling from the sky or like freak injuries. No, they missed threes because they're not a good shooting
This
team.
is who they are. Yeah.
This is who they are. They missed so many threes because it just snowballed and it was just freakishly bad.
And 0 assists for Brown. Just seeing that is just unreal.
Potential.
I mean,
assists
again,
were
that's like
off
the
chart.
extreme of this game. You may say this is who he is. This is who he and Pritchard ultimately are as facilitators and ball handlers. This is the extreme of it, right? Like everything's got to be extreme when it starts stumbling for this team. Like the collapses, the offensive lows, the defensive breakdowns, and how bad was the defense in this one too? Like both ends, they were just a disaster. Rotating off the corner shooters, as you saw there, John. The transition breakout when Pritchard and Hauser were just running into the net and Bledsoe's running the other way uncontested. There's just some bad stuff out there in that regard. Listen, I've defended Ime all year. He doesn't have this team in control right now. I mean, they are completely letting go of the rope and falling off the cliff right now. 8 of 11. We didn't see a stretch like this last year, did we? I don't think we saw basketball this bad as we have over the last 2 games.
It is, again, it's so hard to gauge. You are without,
There was a stretch last year.
But we're talking 11 games now of this.
I know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
This is the problem. So what people will also get stuck doing, which isn't fair, is comparing who's out for one team versus who's out for another. That doesn't matter because the Clippers are better 3 through 12 than the Celtics are. So when the Celtics are missing player number 1, number 3, number 5, or whatever it is, on their team, the stuff behind it is so much worse than everyone else, and they get exposed on nights like this. So it's not just Clippers were without their 2 best players. It doesn't matter. The rest of the Clippers roster is all around better. So they're really exposed. As you said, Bobby.
But like Jaylen Brown's still supposed to be the best player on the court.
He is. But as Bobby said, Jaylen and Peyton had a tough time carrying the offense. You should never utter that sentence, right?
No,
your team's not designed to have Peyton Pritchard as your second best player or carrying the offense. Right. But
no team can survive if Peyton Pritchard is your second.
Well, listen, this is what we're talking about more of if they're going to deal Schroeder, right? So it's going to get ugly here if they do start to chip away at the top of the roster with a move like that. Like you got to start to expect these guys to be able to step into a role like this. And Brown especially really disappoints me because he had a week or 2 there where he was making plays. So sure, in a secondary role, he was finding Robin spots. That kind of disappeared, that pick and roll he was flashing there. And just the overall ball control. He can't keep the ball in his hands right now. It slips right out. I mean, security right now is a big issue for them. And that's the simplest thing.
Rob is 5,000th on our list of concerns after tonight's game.
Rob,
yeah.
I mean, overall, he's still a concern. I mean, to me, Jaylen, I don't even know listen, Jaylen Brown missed threes, but so did everybody tonight. But other than that, I mean, Jaylen Brown was the only reason this game was even a game. I mean, you didn't get, we won't pick on Rob tonight because he did play well and he was all over the place and he ripped down 14 boards and a lot of offensive rebounds. But John, you want to talk about guys who, when they have an opportunity right in front of them, have to grasp it. I mean, again, we talked about Pritchard, bad game from him. Langford, another just black hole on offense. Horford tonight, I thought stunk, couldn't hit anything.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the game, he was
and when you
fine.
lose Rob late there, that was a killer because Horford,
Richardson, oh my
Horford's
God,
a 0
Richardson.
right now.
Yeah, Richardson was horrible tonight offensively. Grant tonight. I know he hit half of your 3-pointers, but I mean
Romeo again.
nobody was there. It was Jaylen Brown and nobody
And
else.
nothing. It was the 3 minutes.
And I give Brown credit. He was putting his body on the line, driving to the hoop, getting banged around. Yeah, he had a couple of dumb turnovers, and of course he couldn't hit a three. But that might be Jaylen Brown. I mean, he was, I think the threes are kind of like a bonus with him. He's a slasher. He's a guy that's going to use his athleticism. And like the game you saw tonight is like the type of Jaylen Brown game I think you're going to expect more often than not. Not a complete 0 from 3, but again, if you just don't have the help right now, you just have nobody. I mean, I know people again on Twitter screaming for ISO Joe again. It's one of those games.
Guys, you got to
stop. Sherrod started that.
I was going to wait for Sherrod to come on because I know Sherrod
Not just Sherrod. There's a lot of people out there who get paid to do this who are like, I could see this working for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
no.
Murphy was asking a pregame. Like, I don't know what's going on there. And that's the issue with that signing, right?
I don't blame anybody for calling for ISO Joe in a situation like tonight where you have 80. Bobby, you had 63 points or whatever it was going into the fourth quarter. Like, try something else. Like, it's almost like, here, take this pen. Maybe you're a lefty and you're not. You know what I mean? Try writing your name with your left. It's like, just try anything different.
Right.
I'm not. It's not like I'm calling for ISO Joe when they're dropping 115 points and they're up. Like, they're struggling to do anything. You don't think Joe Johnson could have hit a 3-pointer tonight? You don't think he could have hit a 3-pointer?
I haven't seen him make it up the floor. I don't.
Do you think he could have shot better than 10% from 3 tonight?
I don't know.
I don't think he's anything other than.
I don't know either, but I'll take the risk on a game like tonight.
All right, then let's call Scala. I'm just not
going to criticize people for being like, toss him out there. I understand why he's in the team. He's an emergency player, and he's not really like supposed to be.
I don't understand why
playing.
he's on the team.
I just mean I understand why they signed a guy that knows how to play basketball because they just need bodies. But he does one thing well, and it's score the ball. And if you can't score, I mean, just toss him out there.
Listen,
why are you trying to build something here?
The last thing in the world you need is
Bobby,
more...
you're trying to win the freaking game. That's
the last thing you need is more isolation. I just like the problem here. The last thing you need is another
brick.
We've talked about this ad nauseum right now, and it's frustrating. It's like, there's nothing that they do. What do the Celtics do? Well, nothing. Literally nothing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So why every night do we expect something different? I don't get it. Like, what do? They're not elite at defense. Yes, they have a better defensive lineup when they have Horford and Rob out there, but that really messes with your spacing. So you have huge problems there. They don't have a lot of shooters. Their pace of play when Tatum and Brown are both there are atrocious. They don't move the ball up the court. And it's not just their pace of play in transition. Their pace of play in a half-court offense is abysmal. Okay, so they're and they don't have shooters. They don't do anything well. Nothing well. They have a couple of guys who have individual talent, and then they, as a team, do nothing well. So why do we keep expecting something to get put together? As a team, they do everything below league average. Everything,
especially in the fourth. And that's
the fourth is
an
absolute collapse, right?
Yeah. So they shouldn't be an absolute disaster, and they continue to be that in these late game situations. And you can't look at anything other than the tone setters. Tatum, Brown, Pritchard, Schroeder, whoever you want to in these spots. They've all really failed in that position, and epically so. You look at the numbers, bottom 5, and we saw this for stretches last year too, on offense, defense, the likes of the Knicks and the Blazers. I wrote about that earlier in the week. The fourth quarter numbers that they have are just scary. And to completely lose hold of everything. Listen, John, there's certain things they do well in spots. Like, rebounding, they dominated that area tonight. The putbacks.
Oh my God.
You gotta
they missed every shot, Bobby.
You got to be able to convert on the second chance opportunities. The Clippers did. They had some second, third chance opportunities down the stretch, and this was a close game, 2 or 3 points the whole way. You look at this with 2.5 minutes to go, you're down 4, and it's like just grab the game, win. It's not going to be pretty, but just go make the play or two that you have to do here. And all of a sudden they're fouling on a screen like Pritchard was there and sending them to the line and then allowing a third chance Bledsoe. The way they blow this up is so epic. And then they get 2 quick scores the other way that would have tied the game if they didn't give up 4 on that one possession. So it's like, why does everything have to be so dramatic when it comes to the bad with this team? And I keep thinking back to that Ime quote
because they don't help one another. But anyway, go ahead.
The snowballing. I've said this a million times this year. Something goes wrong, then they make another mistake and it gets worse, and all of a sudden it just compounds on them in a way that they end up with a disaster. And that's why this team, like, it's so dramatic when they fail. Like, they don't just lose a game on a tough play or something goes against them. It's always an all-out disaster like it is here tonight. And listen, I look at that going back a couple of years now and just say, like, yeah, this mix isn't working. You don't have anyone that can step up in these situations. Nobody seems to have the fortitude to be able to come through in a spot like this against a team. Listen, you can say the Clippers are better than people think, worse than people think when they're down to this. At the end of the day, you're at least on level with this team, and you got to go out there and make the play or two to steal it from them. That's what it is right now, just fortitude in these situations, execution, and they're not getting it done. And at this point, like 8 of 11, you start to look at it and say, is there any hope left for this core? You really start wondering.
I don't know. You're right. If you break it down game by game,
it's multiple individuals that can't come through in this spot for a long span of time.
But
now.
If you break it up game by game, you can point to moments where execution and different things you could do. You're right. You might play like shit at the end of the game. You might still feel bad about the team, but there's winnable games here every single night.
How many can we count now?
A separate
Clippers one.
Yes, beyond the institutional issues with the team and the flaws, of the roster, they're still in a lot of games, and their record in close games is abysmal. Yeah, no, I'm saying
1-9.
Each night
potential win, another potential win tonight.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
I know.
The record could be a little better, and you wouldn't feel as bad about it. But not only are they bad in the sense of like there's deep concerns with how this team plays, but also there's just night in, night out, 15 things you could point to that they just screw up. The other team doesn't. That just costs them games. You've got other teams that are wounded, that are missing good players too, and you're not able to capitalize. As Bobby said, you're even. So
that's the point, John. They're not bad. They're just collapsing in critical moments. Like it just completely crumbles.
I think they're bad.
Then they wouldn't be in games. They wouldn't be even
within 5 points and 10 out of their game. They're in games against bad teams, Bobby. I mean, look at the last 2 games. The Clippers without Kawhi and Paul George, and the Timberwolves without literally anybody.
But everybody's in the same spot. In the game. Everybody's in the same spot right now. They certainly.
Yes and no. I mean, Jaylen Brown is still. I mean, Jaylen Brown's an all-star, and he's playing. I mean, you've got players. That's what I'm saying. You've got players that are supposed to be really good, that should be able to win these 50-50 games if that's what you're saying they are. If everyone's in the same boat.
Well, they're better than Celtics 8 losses in 11 games. Certainly.
Right. That's are they, or are they what they are? I don't know. At some point, you are what you are. They've been a roughly 500 team for John. John will tell you for what 80.
Well, now they're below 500. It's
something
gotten
games.
Worse.
I know it's gotten worse.
500 here.
So are they what they are? Or are they still better than what they are? Because it's been a season and a half now.
I think if we're looking at the big picture in terms of everything we've watched this year, it's the critical periods of the game. The close games late, 10 games out of how many are we looking at now? Like 36 or whatever it is, 37. That's where they're not coming through. Like again and again, it's those crunch time minutes where Tatum's a disaster, 34% from the field in those spots. Brown being unable to make plays in those situations like we saw against Minnesota. Schroeder, who has had a number of awful moments in that regard. I'm saying you have multiple players, including Smart, I think, to some degree. He's probably the best out of all of them, but he can't get his own shot in those circumstances. You don't have a single player who can settle you down in these situations in a game like this, where all you need is just to string together 3-4 possessions down the stretch. You wouldn't feel good about this game, but you'd come away with a win and a better record and a much better standing by the end of the year. And now they're just systematically failing in these spots. And the tough thing that you have to grapple with here is that nobody's coming through in these spots. And even if we come up with a crazy trade by the end of the show tonight, as I'm sure we will, does anybody still have the ability to come up, grab the team by the ropes here and come through in these moments. The new guy is going to be
No.
empowered.
I don't know. Are we going to go through this?
in
It's
those
the
spots.
GM, it's the coach, it's the Jays. Like, I was just like, I'm so exhausted.
It's the players. They don't have a single guy who can step up in these spots and salvage these situations.
We got
I
to
don't
read
think
the
anyone has on this team.
I got to read the Jaylen Brown stat because it's a pretty good stat. Jaylen Brown shot 13 for 36 from the field and did not record an assist tonight against the Clippers. His 36 field goal attempts without a single assist are the most by any player in a game since, John?
Antoine Walker.
Antoine Walker shot 21 for 36 with 0 assists against the Wizards in 1998.
But
So
he also shot 21 for 36, not 13
21
for 36.
Right. So the more records broken tonight. Jaylen Brown with the most lopsided field goal attempt to assist ratio in over 20 years. Now, people are going to say, well, he had a lot of potential assists, which John so accurately points out in his hashtag there, which is true. Jaylen Brown would have had some assists tonight if anybody could have bought a basket. But
is it possible for someone to make a basket from sitting on the bench where half of Jaylen's passes went?
True. Yeah. Man. But yeah, that's the stat going around the old Twitter world right now.
Yeah. That's what the kids are saying.
36 attempts. I mean, somebody had to shoot the ball tonight. I don't even blame him for taking.
Of course he did.
Shots.
Of course he did.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even. It's not. If you just see the stat, then yeah, that looks pretty bad. But if you watch the game, like there was no other option half the time.
And that's the problem too. At this point, there's no shooting here at all. I mean, this wasn't a surprise. We expected games like this year. We've seen plenty of them. This was the dramatic one, certainly, but they don't have anyone who can knock down these shots consistently. They probably should have played Grant more in this one. They did play Sam quite a bit to start the fourth. Got him one good look. But overall, I just kind of say that the passing isn't great right now. Like, they aren't creating quality looks. It's basic driving kicks. They're not running a ton of pick and roll to try to get more downhill, and that's not really an option when you see this much zone. It's a lot of just pull-up jumpers, kickouts off offensive rebounds. I thought Richardson was so late on one of those plays where Hauser was wide open in the corner to find him there. The reads and just the organization from a playmaking standpoint aren't great here right now. And
they're not. I mean,
it's both ends, right? Like whoever's supporting Brown's going to say, "Where's the shooting?" and whoever's supporting the other guy is going to say, "Oh, he's not finding them." But it's both right now. It really is.
Both.
That's how
I sent you guys that snapshot of one of the plays where Brown's got the ball above the 3-point line, and Romeo and Grant
what is up with that?
Are literally
standing
next to each other.
They're standing next to each other. Hauser's on the other side of the court in the corner, and then Pritchard, I think, was also next to Jaylen. They were playing like 2-2-1, like.
Didn't we say it last year with
nobody moved, and then Romeo and Grant are just sitting there watching. Nobody runs the baseline, runs a cut, goes to set a screen.
Richardson a little bit, but
nobody runs
else.
hard to set screens. Like nothing. It's just unreal.
You're right, Bobby. Grant should have played more tonight. I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth. Probably the first time I've ever said it. But why not play Grant more tonight? He's your best 3-point shooter, and you can't buy a three.
Was it because of Morris?
Maybe. But again, at some point you got to run.
It was because of
Morris.
What? The Celtics are gonna leave their best outside shooter on the bench because
just
Marcus Morris Sr.
When he came in and he matched up against him in those early minutes,
you've talked
Morris
about
was getting
this,
whatever
John.
he wanted. But yeah,
one of John's favorite players, by the way, Marcus Morris.
But you've talked about this, John. At some point when this is happening and it's demoralizing you on the offensive end, you gotta put guys out there that can score, and you have to go out there and run the best offense you possibly can, especially in a close game, because you've talked about how like you can pile up stops, but the only way you're going to go tit for tat is by scoring again and again with a team like that. Your defense wasn't executing at all in this one, so you can't overreact to defense when you need buckets, when you're shooting 9% from three. I was stunned Grant didn't play more in the fourth. I really was, because he was getting them some spot makes earlier in the game. He had a few good passing sequences there. Like, he's just a smart offensive player. I'd rather him out there than Hauser. Hauser, for what it's worth, we want to see him, but the defense is really bad, and he's not like he's raining down buckets on teams' heads right now. So I don't see a ton there. And Broderick Thomas, like, he played okay, But is that like another defense thing, like trying to match defense? Is that what that is there? He cut a little bit on one play, but I didn't see a ton from him. Sort of just Romeo-like minutes from Broderick Thomas.
Yeah.
So you're short, but you there's no circumstance where you should have an offensive game like this. There really isn't. Look at the Clippers. I mean, like you can say night in and night out what on the other side they're putting out there and what they're able to do with it. They were able to scrap together some points. Timberwolves were.
Jimmy's done.
I
Phoenix
feel
coming
like
out
we're
on
broken,
Friday.
you know, and like we look, you know, we're coming out here after every game, and it's like we're seeing the same stuff everyone else is seeing the same shit over and over because these games keep going the same way, right? I mean, they can't play in the fourth quarter. They blow leads if they even have the lead. And, you know, Bobby talked about it the last, you know, what is it, the last 11 game stretch? I mean, this goes all the way
I can't
back.
believe you do this after Monday. Like,
Right.
Monday should have been rock bottom, right?
I don't want to just be like that old man screaming, like, oh, they ain't got no Celtic pride. But, like, where's, like, just, like, the self-pride? Like, you know, like don't you – I had this issue with them last year. I felt like they just didn't – there's a lack of compete. There's a lack of fight. I mean, talent. I just don't see.
I know. I know. I've talked about this with other people before. We really got to retire this notion of Celtics pride, of being a thing, that matters to any generation of current basketball players. Like it just doesn't.
Smart. Like that's it.
But I mean, for real.
I don't even mean like Celtic pride, like like the band is, but I just mean like, just maybe just whatever organization you're in, like. Do you want to play for that? Do you want to play for the city, the team? Like, are you pumped to put on the jersey? Like, I mean, there should be some level of.
I know. I'm just saying.
Some level of that.
A franchise that's won one title in 35 years. Okay, that means you have to be friggin' 50 for it to matter to you. Like, you really do. And so it's silly at this point to think that like.
Well, they're all gone now too. All the
to those guys
are around. So.
And to those guys, the legends. You know, won championships playing with, you know, the majority of those came when there were 6 teams in the league and they were shooting in peach baskets. Like,
all right, no, I get it. I'm not talking about like, oh, the Celtics.
No, but I see a lot of it.
Banners. I'm just talking about like there is like, you know, whether or not you were a part of it or not, there is still a history to it, and there is you know something to be said about.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I know you do, but like you would think a basketball player. You would think that maybe they would. I mean, the Lakers, you know, obviously they have more recent success when it comes to, you know, championships and banners and all that crap. But
kids today, they do.
I know
not
they
care.
don't.
It's ancient history.
That's obvious. That's obvious.
I know they don't care, but.
Nobody cares.
They should care about their own team, though.
I'm saying, yes, I agree with that, Jimmy. I'm saying this collection of Celtics are not the only people in the NBA right now that don't give a crap about the history of the Boston Celtics. Nobody really does of this generation because they didn't live it. It's a history lesson.
Well, whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter on game night. Like when you
what matters is pride in yourself and your
like,
team,
yes.
Jimmy. I agree with that. Right. Yeah.
That's it. And listen, I think it's less diving on the floor and chasing the boards and doing all the hustle things. We talk about that night in and night out, but they do those things. You see the Romeo play. You see how Rob's chasing those. Rob, who knows, broke his face running down a ball in this one. So I don't think that's an issue. I think what's underrated in that regard is how hard it is to run offense, good offense, possession by possession, not just throwing up a shot because it's there, not just, you know, shooting 10 seconds into the shot clock or running the whole shot clock down and taking your guy in isolation. I mean, this team's still second in isolation. It hasn't reduced at all over last year. What Ime was looking to accomplish in that regard just hasn't set in. Play in, play out. They have to run some tough sets, make a bunch of extra passes. You see it 2 or 3 times a game. There were a couple moments in this one where you have guys making extra passes, swinging it left to right, inside and out.
Because of the
But it's
defense they're
hard. It's
playing.
hard. There's not a commitment to it. It's not easy to run those sets and you make that many passes and move and cut and do all the things you need to do. And they just don't do it. I can't imagine it's a coaching de-emphasis and that they're not pressing these in these film sessions again and again. Top to bottom, I just don't think there's a fire or desire on that end of the court by anybody to just do all the little things you need to do to run great offense. And listen, it's a big personnel issue, but when it gets this extreme, I think it moves beyond the personnel that you have out there. Listen, a bunch of teams in the league don't have shooting. Not many are shooting 9% in a game.
There is no. It's hard to overstate it. We sound like just these old curmudgeons who just sit here and complain and say everything sucks. But I actually think we're understating how bad it sucks. Like, they are an incredibly bad basketball team in terms of playing team basketball. And they don't do anything to help one another. It's remarkable. It is.
You have a lot of strong individuals trying to solve it themselves.
Yes, exactly. And that's the problem. As watching them play basketball, you're like, what offense is this? What is the plan right now? Like, what are they doing? It's just freelancing. It's so weird. It's so, there's no direction. There's no cohesion. It's so bizarre. And every once in a while you get a game or two where it'll look kind of normal and you're like, maybe, and then you see 5-6 straight where it's all disjointed again. It's I've never seen anything like it. Like, it's like they just met. It's literally is a pickup game every night. They just 5 guys. What do you do? Okay, you play the 5.
And that was actually what Minnesota did on Monday.
Yes, it feels like a pickup game
smoothly
every night. Like, they literally just, if you put 5 guys together and you're like, we got next, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you fix it either. We've talked a million times about the moves. There's no obvious step there. I think Ime as a coach has done everything imaginable you can to try to impact their play style, and it still hasn't gotten through. I don't. At some point, he just starts to sound a little exasperated with what he's trying to accomplish in that regard. Maybe he hasn't done a good enough job of really forcing the issue by benching guys and other things. We know that doesn't happen.
I know.
I don't know. I just don't know what you do.
I insist on this. I know Jimmy and I differ a little. I insist on this. I do not believe it is selfish guys who are thinking, me, my stats. I just think it's guys who only know how to do what they do. And that's it. I've said this about Tatum from the beginning. I do not.
But John, at what point does that become selfish in your eye? At what year? At what year does that become selfish? That they haven't learned a new way to play basketball.
It's a fair
to.
question, but then you have a night like this and you think, I know they're telling me to do this, but is it really the right thing to do? You know, so like the problem is,
I'm not even using tonight as
it would be easier. It would be easier for them to not be selfish on a roster with more talent because it would bear fruit and you would see success in a new style of play. Guys would help you out the same way you would help them out. It wouldn't just be incumbent on you to do everything and feel like you're holding people's hands and playing at a level that's beneath you and that it doesn't work out a lot of the times and you're thinking, why am I passing up shots for Romeo? You know, so they're cursed a little. They're cursed because of the roster because they can't see a payout. But I don't believe Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are running to the scoring table to be like, what did I have? 36? Not bad. I don't think that that's them. I think
I disagree with that too. Yeah.
I don't believe it. People say they're all me guys. No, I just think Jason Tatum spent an entire life building a skill set, which was give me the ball, get out of my way. I'm going to go one-on-one with my defender, and
John,
I'm going to shoot in their
that's
face.
Tatum has a little less of an excuse. That's every basketball player up into D1 college. They're all the best players on their team, and they always take the ball and do everything. And then they go to a D1 team, and they learn how to play team ball, and then they get drafted, and they sit on the bench, and they come in, and they learn how to play team basketball. There's like 5 guys who that isn't the case for, like LeBron. Like you can go like Jason Tatum is no exception. So in year 5 or whatever we are now of Jason Tatum experience, he needs to adjust. And again, he didn't even play tonight. So this is a topic that has nothing to do with tonight's performance. And I don't even blame Jaylen Brown
Tatum
for his performance tonight either. Again, like you're given a roster of guys that half of them weren't even in the league 2 weeks ago, or shouldn't be in the league. You're going to put up 36 shots and you're going to do everything you can. Like, I'm not blaming tonight on Jaylen Brown at all, but there is like an overarching issue with these two guys leading the way in the
Well,
way
where's the
in which
help?
they do it.
You got Smart, who's a proven facilitator, and he helps a ton when he's out there. Tatum, I think, at this point has shown enough in that regard, getting off the ball and just having a willingness in that regard to make plays and pass and get the ball moving. You should expect it from him at this point. I think we're deep enough into his career doing that when he doesn't, it's a problem, especially late in games. Brown, Pritchard, John said it off the top. You don't know with those guys. Like, Brown might never become a playmaker in this league. I think that's where John is with him.
I've been
Pritchard,
there.
it's
Yeah.
not his game. Like, still at this point, he's scorer over facilitator. So with Smart down, Schroeder out, who's not great in that regard himself when you think about the signings. They didn't have a ton of options over the offseason, but why is there no one here? Forget Joe Johnson and all this other stuff. Why is no one in here to handle the rock at the very least?
And that's
There's
the
not
point.
a G Leaguer
That's
out
the
there.
problem. This is crazy to me. It's a team without
I'm furious at the way Brad
without a
has
true
this
point guard.
replacement player situation.
Yeah, and right, the replacement player is a mess right now. But again, even when Smart's out there, it's a team without a really, really strong, dominant, give me the ball and I'm going to find people point guard. Smart can pass and he can facilitate, but he's not, a dynamic point guard by any means. They don't have shooters. They don't have traditional bigs, who can play down low. You
can't throw the ball in the post and get a score right
There's
now.
nothing you can do. Ennis is the only one you can do that with, and he's been horrible this year. They're horrible. They really just have two wings and then a bunch of guys who are below average at everything that they do, for the most part.
Yeah, in terms of offensive skills, things he can
when
really
you stack
lean
him
on.
up, Smart versus other starting point guards, he's below league average among starters. He's the best they have, but he's not exceptional.
Maybe. I mean, he's probably better than anyone else you can go out and get at that
For sure.
But
I'm just saying, relative to your competition, they don't have. They're lacking in so many areas.
Yeah, and
I feel
still think. Well, go ahead.
No, this is completely out. You go.
Well, I was gonna say you probably need to emphasize him more too in this offense in terms of playmaking and being on the ball. Like, he's the best passer they have. You're trying to develop Tatum and Brown in this regard and funnel as much opportunity their way as you can. And I think that's what's going to start mattering more and more as the season progresses, is their development and Pritchard's as well. I think we want to see more of these things, even though it's ugly right now and it's looking like a disaster. What are you going to do? Just like keep punching the wall and trying to do the other things? Or are you going to actually try to get these guys better at these things? I think we're pushing pretty quickly toward a developmental season in that regard, even if it really goes off the rails here. I think that's what you have to do. Like, these guys, just through sheer repetition, have to start to get better at these things. And a game like this from Brown is disappointing in that regard. You want to see at least one assist, right? For what he's trying to accomplish, for what Ime is trying to make him do. You might not believe in the end goal there, but Ime's been pretty clear of what his big goal is as head coach of this team, right? Making Brown a facilitator, making Tatum a facilitator, just because they don't have the ability to go out there and get a Chris Paul. They just don't. So their only path to offensive stability is those guys doing both. And, other players have done it. They're going to have to. I think it's the only way. Like, there's no clear solution to fixing this offense out there. Even if you go get another star, it's the same deal, right? Just guys trading shots, waiting for their turn, taking and settling, right? Like, they got to improve in this regard. They have to. It's the only way.
I just looked this up, by the way. It was like 2.7 versus 2.8 heading into the night. I didn't know he was the only player. I don't know if that's true or not, but it is interesting. Wow. Jaylen is a classic case of the more you put the ball in his hand, yes, assist numbers will probably go up, but so will the turnovers because he's sloppy. It just is what it is.
You do wonder about him, but he's so early, right? Like, he's never, ever done this in this part of his game.
I guess going back to Jimmy's point, the question is why?
Because it's all you got.
No, why hasn't he done it?
All you have. Kyrie, Kemba, those guys, the ball was in their hands a ton. And so he was an off-ball guy during those times.
I haven't seen a single quote from anyone on the Celtics yet. So I have a feeling this is a interesting post game in the locker room or
You know
something.
what they're gonna say, Jimmy? Why don't you just ad-lib it?
Oh no, it's not going to be interesting for us. But whatever's going on behind closed doors maybe is interesting because usually you would have heard something from Ime. I don't even think Ime has spoken yet. So
Jaylen, this is from Tim Bontemps. 8 potential assists, tied for
oh
the most
god.
by any player who didn't record an assist in a game this season.
Well, we know that. I mean, they missed so many shots tonight. So I mean, now they're not going to hit every pass that you make. So that doesn't mean that Jaylen Brown should have had 8 assists tonight. If you shoot 40%, then he would have had 3 assists, something like that, on a typical shooting night.
Mm-hmm.
So really not that big of a difference. But I'm done with the potential stuff though.
They're gonna have so many potential assists by the end of the year.
Potential assists, potential wins.
The question becomes again, it's like, can you continue to just talk about health, weird season, we haven't had our core together, and kick the can down the road for a whole other year? Or is a head going to roll? Another one.
You're running out of time. You can't keep stringing along. By the end of this year, you're going to be seeing Brown's free agency in the distant future. You got to make a tough decision at some point. You have to at least start thinking about what you're going to change here, what you possibly can start to shake up, because they've done the executive, they've done the coach, they've done everything else. Not enough development has been achieved. I'm starting to buy into that a lot more. You've talked about it a ton, John. Like, the amount of time they've wasted without even getting a glimpse at what the young guys can provide here is pretty startling and really bad from a team building perspective.
Or just putting them in positions to succeed. They don't do that. They put them out there and they're like, go. And then it's like, oh, well, you couldn't keep up with the 3 all-stars we threw you out there with. You're back on the bench, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just continuously frustrated by how long it's taken them to replace Hayward with something, at least as a shooter.
They tried Fournier, and then you downgraded from Fournier.
Yeah, and then they lost him, and they're still kind of kicking that space down the road here. So you've wasted a ton of time just straddling the middle of the league. And that's a killer because you are on the clock in some regard. Like, I don't know if Brown's going to leave. I don't think we have a clue. But if he is, you have just really wasted a ton of time here without doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Have they accomplished anything over the last year and a half?
No. So here's the thing. A lot of commenters are saying things like, we hear you. Like somebody just said, John, stop complaining. What's the solution? We don't know. The problem is when you start to say, no, it's fair. It's a fair question to ask. Like, what's the
solution? If we knew the solution, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Well,
no,
I think
for sure. What I'm saying though is like what ends up happening is, because this is where the conversation in like Celticsville gets really muddy, because you don't have options based off of no assets, no salary space to pull that trade everyone wants to pull. So every time anyone throws out names, go get this guy, you can't get that guy. You have nothing. Nobody wants anything you have. Maybe some team could be enticed by a bunch of first-round picks, but reality is that's not enough unless you can pair it with something that's a real asset, tangible, a young player that they don't have. Their inability to develop or draft well the last few years kills the chance of trading up into superstar land. So that means, once again, the only thing you can do is break up the Brown and Tatum and see if the results are better. And as soon as you say that, everyone's like, oh, the second they lose a game, everyone says trade Jaylen. Nobody wants to trade Jaylen Brown just for the sake of trading him. But if you're going to be realistic, the only way you can make wholesale changes to this team is to trade one of your 2 stars, because that's the only thing that's going to yield substantial return that's going to give the team a new identity and a makeover.
But what's the substantial return look like?
Will it work? I don't know. But that's why the conversation always goes there. Everyone is stuck in this hamster wheel of let's get better, but don't trade the Jays. It's impossible. So stop. Have grown-up conversations about this. If you want to make moves, it's got to be for Jaylen, most likely. And
where are you at on that, Jimmy?
And then start having that conversation. If not, you hold the line and you hope other stuff gets better around it somewhere around in some way. I don't know.
Do.
And it's hard to do. Yeah.
Where you at on that?
Well, I mean, I think you guys know what I've said, at least in our group chat, is that I'm open to it. I'm not willing to just trade Jaylen Brown because you've lost the last eight of 11 or whatever it is. But we have we kind of are getting a pretty good sample size of what the team looks like with these two guys leading the way. If it's trade one or the other, it's pretty easy for me. I would keep Tatum over Brown right now. I think that probably wouldn't change for me. I do wonder that I think the two players, like position wise, it's just not working. And I think again, like if you had a superstar player that was, maybe like a swing and maybe a point guard, or a swing and a center, or a guy that was a sharpshooter, obviously Steph Curry's an easy example, but there's only one Steph Curry, but somebody who could just, shoot the lights out like that. I just don't know if the fit is there right now. And I do question the leadership of both of these guys. I'm not saying they can't lead. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. So if they can, show me that you can lead. Show me on the court and off the court that, you can lead a group of guys to, a season where it's considered successful, or, you surprise people in a good way, or,
Right.
You lead by example, So I haven't seen those things. I'm not impressed. So
Yeah.
I think that
I'm
Celtics
not
fans
either.
might be
better.
overvaluing. Yeah, I think Celtics
You'd be
fans are
better
probably overvaluing
surrounding them with more people like the cast you had before, and not put the burden solely on them for the things that you said, Jimmy. Is they might not be the guys who can lead. You might need Hayward and other pros around them. Kemba year one. And that team that they had 2 years ago to have that, because they don't have it, and on their own they're really struggling. But this comment kind of says it all here by Jake. It's again, the two things can both
The Jays aren't.
exist.
People love to say the Jays aren't the problem, but what if they are?
What I'm saying is,
why is it so easy to say the
They're
Jays
the
aren't
only
the problem?
solution.
You're not trading right.
They're the
You're
only
not-
They're the
solution.
only solution.
I agree with this. The Jays aren't the problem per se, but you don't have a choice but to break them up, because there's nothing else you can do if you want something different.
I understand that. I understand
If you
that.
think
I mean,
you
I'm
have no time left, and that's the tricky thing, is you don't know. You get to a point where you lose Brown in free agency, and that's it. Like, even if you keep Tatum around, I don't think there's any recovering from losing a player of that caliber and not getting anything back. You talk about that starting to depreciate, John, in terms of what you can get back from him. That's a concern. But I just think the day you decide to trade Brown into something less, which is what it's going to be. Like, I don't think there's a one-for-one swap there. We've talked about that. I think your team is much further away from winning a championship. You might feel better about them through the regular season. You might win a few more games because of fit and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, having multiple stars is the path. You try to.
It is
Jaylen
the
for
path, but you're acting like they're the only two stars. Like if Jaylen Brown is
Jaylen for Kyrie Irving, would you do it?
No.
Come on,
For a
So
million
done with
different
Kyrie.
reasons.
do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Kyrie Irving doesn't want to play for you.
Yeah.
If you're gonna trade Jaylen Brown, please, Celtics. If you are gonna trade Jaylen Brown, try to trade him for somebody who wants to play in Boston and wants to play basketball and win, and has a little attitude and swagger and personality.
I am
and
so
leadership
this is where it
skills.
goes too far. Are you kidding me? Like, he has been down multiple great runs with this team, and I want to do this whole thing again here, but I'm not going to start to pigeonhole Brown's desire.
I'm not saying he isn't that. I'm just saying don't trade for Kyrie, because Kyrie isn't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Brown isn't any of those things. But that being said, I already said I'm not thrilled by what I've seen between Brown and Tatum on the leadership side of things. I'm just not. I mean, you can go find a highlight of them high-fiving and smiling, but at the end of the day, I don't think
they love each other, Jimmy.
I don't
That's
think
fair,
anyone's
but-
going to say that these guys are your prototypical leaders. Like, no, I mean, come on.
But that's
Don't
something
even
you
tell
grow
me.
into, and that is something that.
Well, it's time to grow up then. Or how long do you want to wait for these guys to grow up?
This is the question. I mean, like, do you trade Pierce way back because he's not ready for that? Like, there's a talent question at the core of
Yes,
this.
you were
that
very
have
close to trading Pierce. You were.
Yeah,
you were
and then
very
you
close.
would have.
You were close, but they were in a
wouldn't won
different
a
position. The
championship
Celtics.
there.
You
The
lucked
Celtics
into
were a
a-
horrible team.
You lucked into a totally unforeseen, once in a lifetime set of circumstances and chain of events that led to the big three, which was first missing on that draft slot and the lottery, the ping pong balls not falling your
Right.
way, getting a guy you didn't want, shipping him for Allen, and then convincing that, and then getting the KG trade by giving up 60 cents on
They
the
were
you know.
completely different situations.
But that could never happen
that's
again.
That's not the reason I'm moving on from Brown. And we can talk about the things they've screwed up around.
That's not the
it,
only
that need
reason,
to
but
it's
doesn't
way down the list. I mean, they got to grow up. Like that's just something you have to allow to happen in that regard.
It's not the reason, but it's not the opposite. It's not like, oh, but they're such good like leaders in locker
But
room.
is the grass
and this
greener?
and
Like that's
pride
what
and
you
this
have
You
to
know what we have to stop? You know what we have to stop doing? And everybody should stop doing this. Stop referring to them as young. They are, yes,
They're
they
not.
are.
They are young.
They are not.
They're not young in basketball.
They're not in basketball years. They're in year 5 and 4. They're grown men, basketball wise. Okay, it doesn't mean they're not going to get better. And their prime is
But we're talking leadership.
But their prime is 2 years in front of them, which means they've got a 5-year runway at this point. We got to stop.
How long have they been leaders?
It's not the leader aspect. It's
that's all I'm talking about.
0.
It's the ability to play a complete game, you know, and to do more than just the thing that you're the specialist at, you know, like at this point, Jaylen Brown's playmaking is coming along in year 5. Year 5, he's a 5-year NBA veteran. I don't want to talk about the things he's still developing in his game. By year 5, you're getting a little better at everything until year 7 when you're in your prime, and then you start to decline. He shouldn't still be trying to completely do stuff he's terrible at in year 5.
Then you have to compliment him.
And us to expect that to be possible. It's not possible. This is who he is.
But we're looking at it right now like you have 2 answers. Either he's perfect and has it all together, or you get rid of him and find other stuff. Like, there's other ways to do this thing. You can go out and get it. We talked about in Dome Theory last week. Could you have gotten out and gotten Ricky Rubio and solved half the issue here? Would we be thinking about this team as a completely different situation if you just had a playmaking, connecting, glue point guard in here? Like, if it's that simple and they haven't addressed things around the edges to make the team more multi-dimensional and not put it all on their feet.
And also, I'm sorry, it's year 5. It's year 5 and 6, not 4 and 5. They are NBA veterans. We are done
on the floor.
We are done calling them kids. They're not kids anymore. Okay, the expectations should be that they should be much better than this. You know,
the kids are the guys who like Romeo and like Pritchard. And
can we just get to my
point?
Those
are the kids. Wow, what's your point?
Listen, I understand all that. We all agree on that. At the end of the day, the only thing that's going to get you a championship in this league is having the most talent possible. And you're going to have less talent if you trade Brown. You might feel better about the fit and the leadership and the battle throughout the course of the year. They're looking at something bigger than that. I think Brad's ultimately taking on a mindset like Ainge that it's championship or bust here. Who cares if we have a great regular season and have some fun here? If you're going to be a team that peaks out in the first or second round, which I think is what you'd probably end up with if you trade Brown in this multiple role.
What do you end up with if you don't?
Tatum. You have to figure it out around those 2.
You don't think they're heading for a first-round exit right now?
They are. But you have to figure it out with these 2 because they're the 2 most talented players you're ultimately going to have here. What are you trading Brown for?
We don't
they
know,
have
Bobby.
to figure it out.
They have to
figure it out.
What did the Red Sox trade? What did the Red Sox trade Nomar for? Nothing.
It's completely different, though.
Parts.
All you have that makes you special, puts you a step away from contending right now is these 2 players.
They're not special. They're not special.
Yeah, I think a lot of people around the league would
disagree
with
the team. These guys don't make the Celtics special. These guys right now
on their own.
These guys make the Celtics average.
These guys make the Celtics 16 and 19. Now.
Listen, this is what we're talking about on a night like tonight. Brown surrounded by Romeo, Pritchard, who we've put the bar like this low on to get excited about anytime they do something.
It's
Rob,
terrible.
Who has grown a little bit, and who we just keep expecting to become an all-star, even though he's nothing close right now, and no shooting at all.
I don't think anyone thinks that anymore.
So we're grilling these 2 guys right now over their deficiencies, even though they're very clearly special players.
I know
talents. It's not to do with this game. I mean, it's what do you want to talk about this game? We're just talking about in
general. We're not saying that. We're saying that There is no option to improving around them.
I disagree with that.
Okay, but this is where we are. Then you're in friggin' la TPE land with the rest of Green Team Twitter, like praying for this miracle that's going to fall from the TPE sky that's going to make this team a contender. They're like 4 players away. Like, what are we talking about? You know, they need upgrades across the board. There's not one guy, you know, like there's no magic bullet here. There's no piece. Like, that's why the conversation goes to Tatum and Brown is your only hope for blowing it up is to see if you can get a haul for one of them and see if that sets you up for more future success.
Right.
That's it. I mean, we can throw back and forth what a haul would look like and what would be worth it.
As I've always said, I philosophically, I hate trades. I always believe in trades. The team that gets the best player usually wins. But in the Celtics case, they might have to go backwards and take a package of a young and up and comer with a draft pick and a veteran who fills a need, you know, and contracts or blah, 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 or things that give you flexibility, or I don't know what, but like the star for star has always felt lateral. Plus, every time you talk star for star, when it's Brown for Lillard and Brown for Beal, it always involves Brown plus stuff. You know, people are worried like of just giving up Brown for those guys. Brown alone,
and there's a reason those trades don't happen.
Brown alone doesn't get you that star. But, you know, Brad's hanging up the phone when they say Jaylen, and they're like, wait, I'm not done talking. You know, it's Jaylen and Rob and 2 first rounders. Now
John Wall and Russell Westbrook swapping places was extremely shocking, and that was obviously a very unique circumstance.
Yeah.
We're talking about that sort of Philadelphia swap with other stuff coming back.
A lot of people in the chat picking it up. Right.
Or
picking what up?
The Philly thing I threw out there a while back with like Simmons and
because it's there, right?
Curry,
like Simmons
Curry
is
or
on
Maxey or something, right? Yeah.
So you got to be realistic of what's there. Indiana's looking to rebuild too, so there's a big thing you could do there that gets you back Brogdon over the offseason and Sabonis or something like that. You send some stuff, or maybe make it a 3-teamer with Portland, and get CJ to Indiana. There's a lot of different ways you can go.
So there are options, and like again, if you brought a couple players in like that from Indy, like you're not starting from scratch. You're getting pieces, you're getting depth, you're getting proven players, and who knows, you might be better than you would be with Jaylen Brown, even if those players might not average as many points.
I think there's a chance you would be, but then what's the upside? Like, where do you go from there? You move up a seed.
I don't know the upside. Bobby, that's the problem.
Nobody has that answer.
You're going to run up against issues. This is why the conversation goes here. You're going to run up against a problem where in another year, the clock, after this offseason, the clock is ticking on Jaylen. And so that's a problem, because that year you're going to have to decide what's going on. You got to build a team around him or else he's in his walk year, Mm-hmm. So like, you're going to get close to it.
You got Fox in Sacramento.
So you cannot kick the can down the road much farther. You can't do
you're
it.
right. And so you got to look at.
You got to look at the another variable in this is losing him for nothing.
Bobby, we need you in the lab looking over potential trades.
Well, I always am, but here's my concern in that regard. Do you really think they've taken a long look at trading all the other stuff, and that's smart? That's Rob. That's all the picks here. Like, do you really feel like they've gone all in on looking at moving all that stuff? Because I'm concerned that they've even held a little tight to those things as well. That's where my worry comes in.
I mean, Brad wouldn't be doing his job if he hasn't considered that. So I'm sure that they have. I mean, Brad and whoever else is active in the front office over there right now, I'm sure that they're going over all options. This is not a championship contending team right now. So, of course, they re-signed Marcus Smart or extended Marcus Smart for the reason that keep him as that asset. They extended Rob in the same sense. So these aren't guys that, they can say, oh yeah, we envision, these guys being around the team and winning a championship. You got to say that, but at the end of the day, they need to keep these guys in order to use them for whatever value they have in a trade if you are going to go that route. So I think they've definitely considered the option. It's just a matter of right now, I think teams are trying to figure out, other teams around the NBA are trying to figure out where they're at. It's a crazy season. I think there's a lot of teams that are hanging on a little bit longer than maybe they typically would because of all the uncertainty
Yeah.
this year.
So
And Bobby,
here's
Bobby, the problem is this though. Let's say you rolled up. Like, look at how few reliable players you have right now. Imagine if you rolled up, Smart and Richardson and Rob and Picks into one player. How freaking ridiculously imbalanced and top heavy are you then?
But isn't that what gets it done? And you just figure out the rest and you're the Nets, right? Like that's how you do it in the
You
NBA.
can,
You
but
wish it wasn't like that, but
you
that's how it
can.
goes.
But one, you're not getting a star. You're getting Fournier plus, like you're getting, what are you going to get for those guys? You're not going to you're getting Aaron Gordon, like it's not a star.
You hope
Jimmy.
it's a guy like Sabonis. Here's my worry, and this is
Everything
where
else
this came
is,
from.
yeah.
This was in Bleacher Report earlier this week. Who wrote it? Eric Pincus.
Okay.
I don't know how sourced this was, but he goes into it and says the Celtics have no immediate plans to break up Tatum and Brown. Team hasn't performed to expectations, blah, blah, blah. Per NBA sources, the Celtics don't blame Tatum and Brown. If they could clone them, they would. The more significant issue is the supporting cast, which doesn't provide enough to keep us in true contention. That's what we've talked about here.
Yep.
And you go down the line, and it's like, all right, Horford may be the most likely casualty in a trade, given his friendly contract. The Celtics have well-regarded prospects in Romeo Langford, Aaron Nesmith, Grant, and Pritchard. Veterans like Schroeder and Hernan Gomez could be on the move.
Who wrote this? Zarens? Like well-regarded prospects?
But listen to this.
Yeah.
The difficult question for the
Juancho.
Celtics is Marcus Smart, but the initial goal appears to be keeping the veteran guard along with Rob Williams. So that's where I get worried. Like, have they actually gone the length to shop Smart and actually see like the distance him, Rob, Picks could get them, multiple future picks into the future? Like, I'm not fully assured that they have. And now we're leaping to Brown. Like, if we're talking Brown, I think the reality is they are light years from even thinking about moving him. Like, we got to get to Smart before we can get to Brown from their perspective. Like, reading that piece concerns me. And they think, yes, well-regarded prospects in Romeo, Nesmith, Grant. Like, those are the guys that they're going to put out there and be like, all right, let's see what we can do here. Oh, jeez.
I couldn't make a whole lot of sense.
And again, is that right from their mouths? I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is there.
Yeah, but I didn't put a whole lot. I read that.
I'm not at the Brown point yet. Again, I wrote last week, literally a week ago, I'm never moving Brown. I'm going to go down with that ship. I think he's as talented as it gets among young wings. Other teams would dream of having him. I think you'd have a line of 28, 29 at the door. Not blowing you away with offers.
So dangle him and see what happens.
Listen, I'm down for trying anything. I mean, at this point,
except
you're
you
in
just said
such
you
a
wouldn't.
bad situation. I'll listen to anything. My inclination is that you'll end up regretting that, though. Have we lost Jimmy?
Wait, can you not hear me
Oh,
this whole?
all right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Bobby?
No, go ahead, Jimmy, and let's wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just gonna say.
I think I've lost him.
Oh, well, if Bobby can't hear me, then it kind of ruins the whole point because I was going to respond to Bobby. But basically what I was saying was, how can you say you're going to regret it based on the fact...
Bobby, why don't you leave and come back, see if you can hear him.
Damn it. I'll say it twice so we don't have dead
Jimmy.
air. I was going to say, why would Bobby say the Celtics would regret it? Like, this is what they're looking at. This is the reality right now. How are you going to say, we regret making that trade? Like, you're stuck in, like, below mediocrity land right now with the guys that you have in this team. So this is when you do risk, making a trade like that. Again, it doesn't mean just trade him to the first team that comes calling because you're trying to, rebuild the roster. No, you're just acknowledging that even though you have a very talented player unit or whatever, it might just not be the perfect combination of them. And if you can get other talented, if there's 28 teams going to line up for a guy like Jaylen Brown, then they should obviously have they would obviously have something to offer, some level of talent in return, or whether it's picks or whether it's younger players or whether it's a veteran that the Celtics might think they could pair well with Tatum at whatever position it is. I mean, Bobby, you've mentioned like the Suns going out and getting a guy like Chris Paul, or like the Bulls just they load up on some veterans, and like now look at these teams. It's like the Celtics need to do something along those lines.
And if someone else does it before you do, then you're really in trouble in the conference. New York or Charlotte or someone like that.
Right.
You end up a rung below. And now with the playing tournament every year, like you could potentially be in that 7 through 10 every year. It's a tough situation to be in. Let me just ask you this, Jimmy, before we get out of here. If I guaranteed to you that Jaylen was going to sign another contract beyond this one, would you roll with it?
Well, like what's the team success been like with it? I mean, what do you mean would I roll with it?
Like, would
if
you
he's
keep him, or would you still be looking to trade him?
I think I'd sign him because you want to keep the asset for sure. I'm just not sold on. I'm not sold on this duo leading this team to where it needs to be led currently.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can blame them, you can blame the roster around them. But if they can't change the roster around them, then you're screwed either way. So you got to figure out some way to reset the deck, I guess.
That mindset that I read there in that piece makes me think that there really is ways to shake it up around them that they haven't pursued.
Here's the thing.
I'm more with John.
Yeah.
Like, if the clock's ticking and the asset is going to start depreciating there, that makes you think about it more. But I really think you got to try to keep them if you can.
You've got less than a year and a half to figure it out. So you got to figure it out. What I'm hoping above all else, I think a lot of people just view this as star. Get a third star and then fill in the rest.
That's how they look at it.
I think they should be looking at it like this. Brad is a basketball mind. He should be looking at this team and thinking, if I had this, we would be fine. And then do everything you can to get that. Do it with conviction. I need a point guard.
That's what it is.
I will overpay for it, but I got to go get this thing. Target the guy. Don't just look at pieces and say, oh, this could make us a little better. It's a weird fit, and we'll have 4 guys that play the same position, but let's try it.
Like, there's got to be a point guard out there,
and
a
go
veteran point
get
guard.
it. Right, exactly.
A veteran point guard that has some leadership qualities to him, that can distribute the ball, that can kind of guide these guys, maybe take the heat off them a little bit.
Why not?
I'm gonna have to go through the NBA rosters and pinpoint like a number of these guys because they are out there, and we've seen
Satoransky's a guy.
You love that. You got your guys, and you just stay with it.
I mean, like, that's what.
I don't think Satoransky's gonna bring them a title. I'm thinking a little bit. Said stars.
Well, we were talking.
They said they need a star.
We were talking Lowry and Ball, and that just wasn't there. Murray is a guy people love. They're not going to be able to get a guy like that.
But
Ball would have been perfect.
Wouldn't
have Ball been perfect?
That was my pipe dream last year. Forget all these other big names in the Beals. Go get Ball.
I think they liked it too. It just wasn't there.
So
perfect.
Do what you need to do. Give extra picks. Give whatever. You could have given a package that was better than the other one. Anyway.
Listen, I was all aboard that train. I thought there was a sure path to the sign and trade, but Ball didn't want to come here. He wanted to go to Chicago. His mind was set on Chicago.
I know, and there's no guarantee you grab him anyway. But we're gonna do this after every game for the rest of the season. So, I don't want to waste any more bullets. My throat's razor blades right now, and Bobby's banged up too.
We just needed to vent a little bit. That's all.
We did. Bobby wasn't gonna do this at all, but he wanted badly to vent. After this night,
Oh, I threatened.
Now
Bobby,
it's Phoenix on Friday in an afternoon game. That's gonna go well.
Phoenix is gonna come in and just run you off the court.
The Celtics.
Fun.
When's the last
time
they played
so well together too, man? They just.
When's the last time the Celtics played a razor sharp afternoon game?
When's the last time they played a razor sharp game? Anytime.
What I will say before we wrap, once again, thanks to everybody this was a good audience tonight after a shitty game that was really hard to watch. So I'm super pleased with you guys for hanging with us again. Thank you. We'll keep doing this. We're back on Friday with most of the cast returning for that one. Joe Sway will be out of the protocols by then, as well as Bobby.
Yeah, Joe Sway down for the count tonight. Hit hard. Yeah. By the COVID.
Yeah. They're going to beat the Suns and ruin my new year because I'm going to have to listen to freaking Celtics honk Twitter talk about how, see, you know, when they're at their best.
Let's
Yeah.
see.
See what happens when the shots fall?
When did Tatum go down? Was it the day after
Was it
Christmas?
Monday? Oh, I don't know.
I forget exactly what day it was.
It was either Sunday or Monday.
We're kind of looking at a 5-day window there now, right? So there's probably a chance he could be back.
There's a chance. We'll see.
That would be fun.
That would be good. We haven't heard anything. It's amazing how people just stopped asking.
No, someone asked about the new shorter window, and Udoka said he could get out earlier. He didn't really specify like how early, but
yeah,
it is in play there.
Did any quotes come out of tonight? Did we get anything from Ime?
Jaylen swore.
Jaylen swore.
Yeah. Oh. He's like, we came up short. We just came up effing short. Asked about just the game. So,
well, I guess
all right, no comments.
Yeah. So, guys, we are going to wrap it, but thank you again for hanging with us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bobby and Jimmy coming off the DL for this one. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Get well soon to Josue, who's
and
out
to
there.
Everybody else. I bet you we have a couple people watching that are in quarantine, so get well soon if you are.
Yeah.
And let's just keep moving forward. Keep pushing forward, folks.
Yep. Anyone asking about me? Not COVID positive, but pretty banged up with a cold as well. But these guys are troopers for gutting it out. So thank you guys.
If you don't have COVID, then nobody even cares if you're sick, dude. Like
I know
you're
the flu.
You're
LeBron.
cold cucked. You're cold.
LeBron
The flu's never been more cucked.
LeBron said everyone forgot about the flu.
Yeah. I saw something today on the flu. People are trying to hype the flu now because they want to scare you about the next thing. So. Be careful about the flu, too. I got my flu shot, though.
The flu is up.
I'm pretty banged up. All right, guys. Thanks again. We will Happy New Year for those who don't join us.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
We had a good year with you guys. Yeah, New Year's resolutions coming on Friday.
Ooh, okay.
See y'all.